What if I told you that one of history's most dramatic social movements started with just 120 scared people in a room, and within hours transformed into a force that would reshape the entire world? Today, we're exploring a pivotal moment that changed the course of religious history.
That's fascinating because we often think massive movements need careful planning and infrastructure, but this one sparked almost spontaneously, and the timing couldn't have been more perfect.
Well, let's paint that picture more clearly. We're talking about Jerusalem during Pentecost, one of the three major Jewish festivals that brought pilgrims from across the Roman Empire. The city would have been absolutely packed with visitors from at least 15 different language groups.
Hmm. And these weren't just casual tourists. Historical records suggest Jerusalem's population could swell by up to 180,000 people during these festivals. The streets would have been buzzing with activity.
And right in the middle of this festival atmosphere, something extraordinary happens. These 120 followers of Jesus are gathered in this house when suddenly, boom, there's a sound like a violent windstorm filling the entire building.
You know what's particularly interesting about the timing? Pentecost wasn't just any festival. It celebrated both the wheat harvest and, according to tradition, commemorated Moses receiving the law on Mount Sinai.
Right. And here's where it gets really wild. These followers, most of whom were simple Galilean fishermen and traders, suddenly start speaking in languages they've never learned. We're talking about complex theological concepts in multiple foreign languages.
That must have created quite a scene in the streets. How did the crowd react to this sudden linguistic miracle?
Well, the text tells us there were basically two reactions. Some were amazed and perplexed, hearing their native languages being spoken perfectly by these Galileans. Others, well, they jumped to a rather interesting conclusion. They thought everyone was drunk on new wine.
That's such a strange assumption to make. Like, since when does getting intoxicated give you the ability to speak perfect Parthian or Egyptian?
And that's when Peter, who, let's remember, had recently denied even knowing Jesus out of fear, stands up and delivers this incredible speech. He starts with this touch of humor, pointing out it's only 9 a.m., way too early for anyone to be drunk.
The transformation in Peter is remarkable, from hiding behind locked doors to suddenly addressing thousands of people in the streets. And his speech was incredibly sophisticated, weaving together prophecies from Joel and David with recent events.
You know what's fascinating? The immediate impact was huge. About 3,000 people joined their movement that day. But it's what happened next that really changed society. These new believers created this radical new kind of community.
So they essentially formed an alternative social structure right there in Jerusalem. What did that actually look like in practice?
Well, they shared everything they had, not in a forced way, but voluntarily. They met daily for meals and teaching. The text specifically mentions that if anyone had a need, others would sell their possessions to help them. This was revolutionary in a society with huge gaps between rich and poor.
That level of generosity must have turned heads. In a world where social status and wealth were everything, here was a community practicing radical equality and care for one another.
And here's what's particularly striking. This wasn't just a spiritual movement. It had profound social, economic, and political implications. They were essentially creating an alternative society within the larger culture.
The ripple effects are still felt today. From that initial group of 120 people, Christianity has grown to over 2.3 billion adherents worldwide. That's pretty remarkable growth from such humble beginnings.
You know what this story really shows us? The power of transformed individuals creating transformed communities. These weren't wealthy or powerful people, but their commitment to living differently changed the course of history.
That's such an important point. Real social change often starts with small groups of committed people rather than top down institutional reforms.
Well, I think we've covered quite a journey today, from supernatural manifestations to social revolution. It really challenges our assumptions about how movements begin and grow.
And it raises interesting questions about what it takes to create lasting social change in our own time.